Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tony Cheevers from Researchscape. I'm joined by David Fuscus from Xenophon Strategies and Précis AI. I want to start by saying thank you to John O'Dwyer and O'Dwyer's PR News for hosting today's event. This is 2 years that we've been doing these sessions, and we've gotten a lot of great information out to the audience. For housekeeping, I want to say that the session will be recorded, and the recording will be available afterwards, and the session will also be written up in O'Dwyer's PR News. There is a Q&A section at the bottom of the page. Please feel free to put questions in there. We'll address them at the end of the session. And jumping right in, we're talking about the nuts and bolts of AI and PR with David today. And I was just saying to David, it's so refreshing because so many AI presentations I've seen over the last 3 years are just broad, general, and not really informative. So David, you started Xenophon Strategies. You're in the Public Relations Society of America Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And you were the president of the Public Relations Global Network, where you and I met 2 years ago when you were talking about Précis AI. And I followed you as a speaker to talk about Researchscape's AI. So Shall we jump right in, or do you want to add anything to that quick introduction?
I'm not really sure the Hall of Fame was deserved, but it was welcome nonetheless. But yeah, let's. And I will say one thing is when you talk about the everything is kind of theoretical and stuff out there, is you do get sick of that. And what I hope to talk about today is kind of the nuts and bolts of PR, and specifically what are things that the people who are viewing this can use that's going to help, inform and improve their use of AI. So we'll get specific.
Great. So let's start with the origin story. How did you go from Xenophon Strategies? What was the path that led to Précis AI?
About 3 years ago, one of my employees walked in, who does a technology manager. He works in technology for Xenophon, and he's under instructions when he finds something new and cool in technology to tell me about it so I can start studying it. He said we should be using generative AI. I thought he meant general AI, which is, self-aware Skynet stuff. And I'm like, we're not there yet. Maybe when we get quantum computing, but then, I just read a book on quantum computing if you want to read it. And he said, no, generative. And I said, what's that? And but as we got into it, and this is before chat, months before chat was launched, we started by trying to build a tool for use by our PR teams within Xenophon. And then that very quickly evolved into Précis AI, and Précis has been its own company now for about a year and a half. And I think the thing that struck me most at the beginning of this, there were a couple of things about the PR industry is obviously we are content heavy, writing such an important part of this, of course, everything we do. And I really do believe that PR is an industry that has been underserved by technology for a long time. So those kind of things, came together. I think, PR is a perfect application for generative AI.
So touching back on, you were talking about the theoretical. You and I've talked about the level of AI hype across the media.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
People getting sick of, AI built in, AI inside.
Of course they're getting sick because it's omnipresent. It's everywhere. The ad coming up in the elevator when the little screens that say things about AI. My favorite is that I bought a new vacuum cleaner about 6 weeks ago, and I got the box arrived from Amazon, and a big white letters, red star with yellow on the outside said AI inside, and I'm like, come on, it's a vacuum cleaner, and the AI inside was it had Bluetooth, so you could connect it. You could connect it to your phone. Why you need to connect your vacuum cleaner to your phone, I don't know. On this, but an algorithm is not AI. It's just a tremendous amount of stuff out there for for marketing purposes, just so people can say we're one of the cool kids.
I feel like there's maybe a children's book there, like AI is in your vacuum cleaner. What is the would you say is the state of play for PR professionals using and fully adopting AI, and how do you think it compares to other industries?
Well, first of all, no matter what it feels like, we're still in the early days of adoption. There was a recent Pew Charitable Trust study that was out showing that across workforces, people in the kind of the wordy industries that rely heavily on language, that, adoption was only at about 6 points, full scale adoption was only about 6.6%. And, adoption of people using it here and there on a personal, it was somewhat over 20%. Now that is higher for PR, right? The recent Cision study that they did with PR Week said it was somewhere around 65%. So it's higher, but people are using it. But the thing that's really lagging is the integration of generative AI into business processes, and most importantly for users, into workflows, right? And how do you use it, to improve your work, your work life, your work, all of this is, people are still experimenting. Most companies we talk to are in this stage of, A, we're studying it, and B, my people are all using ChatGPT on a one-off basis on this, but it's not integrated together. It's not manageable, that type of thing. But this is moving fast. Those numbers are just going up.
So getting back again, the theoretical, can you talk about the range of AI tools that are available to PR pros? It seems like there's a lot more conversation around the concept than the actual practical applications and tools. And if you're a PR pro, how do you find? Maybe I'll circle back. So talk about the range of tools that's available.
Sure, they fall into some category, different categories. The first one is the actual companies that produce the large language models, ChatGPT being first and foremost among that, but Claude, Perplexity, any of these, and these are general purpose, kind of generic AI tools. They're built to be all things to all people. I'm gonna get wrong; they work very, very well, right? But they are meant to be all things to all people. They're not specialized. The second category is kind of the legacy PR tools out there: Meltwater, Cision, Muckrack, Sprout Social. I can go on and on. And what you generally find with them is that they've got AI functionality in them. Like with the Muckrack, you can draft press releases for it, but it's very limited, and it's limited for a reason. Is the CEO of a software company, this is that, when you've got an aging code base, which everybody does when you've been around for a while, it's 20 years old, it's difficult to graft AI native code onto that and integrate it in a really good way. So you've got, that's the second category that's there. And the third category is specialized tools, which is where Précis AI and our flagship product, Précis Public Relations, falls into specialized tools. And those range from, some of them are truly awful, some of them are pretty good, but they're almost all focused on earned media. And listen, everybody on this call knows that how much this industry has changed over the last whatever years you want to pick for it. But as earned media has been going down, right, more difficult, the media's shrunk, it's much more difficult to get placements on this, content creation has become, much more important part of the perception of the equation here. Which is what we did at Précis Public Relations on this. We focused on the content production of actually producing, work on it. I mean, yes, you can do media lists that are out there with it, but it's not a replacement for, at least not yet, for Muckrack, Cision, and Meltwater. And I've been really actually kind of surprised that we don't have more, for Précis, more direct competitors here. And I think part of that is the mindset that, PR used to be synonymous with earned media, right? And in a lot of people's mind, it still is, even though you do other things. And where to find those tools? I'll give you a good place to find tools. It's go to an AI and have the AI suggest them on things. We track everything that's out there in the marketplace, new and old and this kind of thing. But also talking to colleagues or what we're using. My guess is that most people on this call are using, ChatGPT or maybe Claude, but are using chat that's out there.
So in those specialized tools, or even talking about the muckracks of the world, how do you recommend PR pros find and vet what works best for them? Because you don't want
Well,
to
you
mess with.
you want to try different things, but there's some fundamental principles that you should look at here. Some best practices that relate directly to how you use the product, right? I'll give you an example of that is context docs, right? Context documents. Listen, everything you ever produce, you produce an op-ed, a release, a talking points, whatever it is that you're producing in PR, you have a set of working documents. It might be a memo, it might be, meeting notes, it might be a white paper, it might be links from stuff you found on the web. And you want to make sure that the AI, when you're doing a particular task, that the AI has those context documents to use when they're doing the thing, specifically the ones that you want on it. And that's probably the most important thing I can tell people right now is heavily use context documents. And the reason for it is simple, is your outputs are exponentially better if you're giving it the information it needs to give you a draft of what you're working on.
All right, so we're diving in here. How about fully integrating AI across an agency or a corporate comms department?
Again, I'm a little shocked that this hasn't moved further along on one hand. On the other hand, that the normal rate of adoption and stuff, and you expect with AI now that's been around for a couple of years on this to be fully in, but it's not. There's kind of 12 principles that we use at when we're talking to people about integration of it, and and some of those are making sure you have a dedicated team to vet stuff, that you've got an internal dialogue with your employees, that your senior leadership is engaged in this, and that you look at on how you're going to embed this into your business practices, how you're going to integrate it into your business practices. From a management point of view, it doesn't do you a whole heck of a lot of good if everybody is just in their own little universe of using something like chat. It's not really a manageable process from a management point of view. And the other thing too is that training is so important in this, to learn how to use it right. I bet you everybody that's on here has the experience of going into your AI of choice and doing something, and you get one draft out, and you get and you like 2 paragraphs of it, but you don't like it here, so you're doing another, and pretty soon you're into this awful kind of feedback loop of multiple drafts that aren't quite related, and it's really frustrating to use it that way. But using context docs, having a platform that allows you to fully edit within the platform is important. So you're not always going out and with some platforms like with Précis, you can download into Word, you can download into soon we'll be able to download into Google Docs. But you've all tried the cut and paste of it, right? You cut and paste, you get lines around it and all this. It's just very cumbersome, process. And what you want to do is you want to have it be part of your workflow. And that means doing things like being able to edit and being able to keep things very organized, because organization is so important in the work that you're doing. Otherwise, again, you're just kind of get lost in the universe of drafts and different things. You're trying to take a piece from this one, a piece from that one, this type of thing. At Précis, with ours, we have a fully, you can edit everything fully within the platform. And we also have the ability to take sections of something so you can take a paragraph that you don't like, and you can ask the AI to regenerate just that paragraph, for example. All these things come together to get AI to the point where it really is a truly useful part of your workday.
So you touched on this when you talk about integration, but do you have recommendations for best practices so that organizations are getting the best full value from AI?
Yeah, certainly. Number one is, let's start with security and privacy, right? The last thing that people want are either their generations or documents they might put into the AI to go into that AI, whatever the model is, to go into their training, right? And so you got to be very careful about security, and it can be a little difficult to figure out. Like you can go into chat, and don't get me wrong, I'm not dumping on chat. They're just the biggest one, biggest one out there. Well, maybe I'll dump on chat a little bit, but you go in and you can opt out of them using your generations and your documents for training. I mean, you got to do 4 clicks to find it, but once you find it, you can opt out of that. But what doesn't tell you there is you're opting out of the use of the stuff for training out of the current model, right? They still use it for training on future models out there. So you got to be very careful about vetting security. And the other thing that's important about best practices is to make sure that your team is all connected, right? I mean, we all know the concept of one voice of messaging. You give messaging documents out to clients. You want everybody to be saying the same thing, to have one voice on an issue. And so if you're connecting the team members in their use of AI, where you can share folders, you can share context documents, this type of thing, it just ensures that you're going to really have one voice. And this is really important because it's easier to maintain kind of message discipline when people are connected on it. Because, for example, you're using a set of base documents for client A on it. All of a sudden, everybody's using the same set of base documents, the same set of facts. It really makes achieving one voice and kind of message discipline much easier than I've ever experienced in my career. Right.
So,
And
sorry, go ahead.
but just lastly on this, the most important tip I can give people, besides using context documents, is working in workflows, right? So you want to look at things being connected. So what do I mean by a workflow? I mean, in the context of AI, you go in and let's say we're creating an op-ed column, right? So you go in, you create the op-ed column, you edit it, you get it to the point where you're happy with it. Maybe it's gone through approval on this, and then you're going to use that to create derivative content. So, you can't take an op-ed and post the op-ed on LinkedIn, or you get duplicative content, which puts you at the end of the Google SEO line on this. But you can tell the op-ed to go in and create the same thing, same meaning, right? But with no duplicative content. And then you move on from that, then you do LinkedIn posts, right? Say, do me 4 posts for this. And then you schedule different posts on this, every 4 days, for example. So you're kind of extending the life of that piece of content. Then you go into, Facebook. You create Facebook posts on this. You create images that you're going to use in Facebook, or you're going to use in Instagram on it. You move on from there, you move on to tweets. So in the practical world, once you get that context document for this whole bevy, this whole suitcase of other content, our users report back to us when they're using this particular workflow that you're getting all of that done in 50 minutes. Right. And you think how long it takes you to produce all that content. So the use of workflows where you're building other content on a key core piece of content brings you just tremendous, speed and productivity. I think that AI for us is most powerful when you're doing that, right?
I will quickly say people can share their questions in the Q&A chat, but several more questions have occurred to me just while we're talking.
Yeah, sure.
So, it's a funny expression, the elephant in the room, but will AI decrease the number of jobs in the PR industry in your perspective?
Well, it kind of pains me to say this because I've been a PR guy since I wrote my first press release for my dad's restaurant when I was 17 or 18 years old, right? And I didn't know then that was going to be my career, but on this, but I put the majority of my professional life into this. But the answer is yes. It is going to impact labor. It is going to impact jobs, and anybody that says differently either doesn't have the facts on the adoption of generative AI, or they don't want to address the issue. That doesn't mean we're all going to be turned into into little robots, sitting at the desk. But I'll tell you, I was talking to one of our Precis customers, a pretty good sized agency, around 50 people. I don't know, 6 million in revenues, 5.5 million in revenues a year. I was talking to the CEO of it, and he told me he just had two positions. He had a assistant account executive and an account executive, that those jobs were vacant because of attrition, and he's just not filling them. He's just not replacing them, because you get these tremendous productivity increases. Like using the Precis platform, our users report to us that they're saving an average of 61% of the time on any particular task, that they're improving client turn times between 70 and 180, 70% and 80%. And that really heavy content producers, thinking assistant AI or AE or an AE on this, are reporting, they're saving about 8 hours a week on it. And if you're running a business, right, you're running a business on this for agencies on it, you're not ignoring those, those productivity increases, especially because of one thing, and this is important. So the PR Council, right? PR Council issues reports every year based on reported data from their agency members. Last year, they reported that labor costs were an average of 67% of gross revenues, right? Which is higher than I've ever seen it, right? And that profit margins were 9 to 11%. Guess what? If you've got a fixed cost of 67%, you cannot. Improving those profit margins are really, really, really stubborn, really difficult to do, because you've got this enormous fixed cost. And when you start talking about people running businesses, guess what? They're going to take action on that. And for on the other side, on corporate comms here, what it means is that they can do more with less people, or they can just do more work. Kind of, and anywhere you can just do more work when you've got this increase in productivity. But what I think is going to happen is that's going to, the use of AI in corp comms is going to decrease the reliance on agencies, outside agencies. And listen, I don't like that. I own an agency, Xenophon Strategies. I started it 25 years ago. I don't like that, but that's kind of the fundamental truth here. And people need to get ready for, they need to get ready for this.
With that said, do you have advice for agency owners on evolving their workforce and preparing for this change?
For agency heads on this, I guess the key advice is don't move too rashly, right? Like at Xenophon, for example, could we reduce our headcount because of the use of AI? Listen, Xenophon was the test bed for this. The first piece of code that was the first function that was coming out, people were testing it. Everybody who works here is a deep expert in using the Precis public relations, platform. But, look at maybe some reskilling, and look at maybe, can you take some of those resources and put them into business development? And it's not going to be apparent right away what you can do, because the first thing that you get when you're effectively using AI is you impact over-servicing, right? I mean, every agency in the world has a problem with over-servicing. And if somebody says they don't, they are lying. If you're on the retainer versus hourly model, you've got a problem with over-servicing. So as you use AI, the over-servicing comes down. It goes down, significantly. We've pretty much solved over-servicing at Xenophon. It really is after you've absorbed all of that, then what are you going to do? What are you going to do after this? And invariably, people are going to make decisions to reduce the size of some people are reduce the size of their workforce. Others are going to kind of, either reskill or take people's time and apply it to other things. Right? We've got people working at Xenophon in biz development now that never worked in it before, because we've got more bodies to do it with.
Well, I'm going to pause and shout out to John O'Dwyer. I think that's the headline. We've solved over-servicing.
Yeah,
That's the article headline.
I'll send you some charts because I found because as it's gone down, it's almost. I have a weekly finance meeting at Xenophon, and I get these numbers during it, and I've seen it go down and down and down and down, and especially the bigger the client, the more over servicing you do because you want to make sure that big old client is happy on things and. Over servicing is the holy grail in this industry. It has been since Edward Bernays invented the industry in the early 20th century on it. And everybody's been looking for the holy grail to solve it. And generative AI is it. This is the solution to overservicing.
We've been talking for about 25 minutes. I have a couple more questions and I have some questions from the audience. So
sure.
I think you've talked about this some already, but where would you say Précis AI and Précis public relations, where does your technology fit in the mix of AI tools available in the PR industry?
Well, so the Précis AI is the company, right? We build industry specific AI platforms, and Précis Public Relations is our first. I mean, obviously, you can see why we picked that one for the first one. But we're a content production platform, right? And our it is entirely designed for individuals and more importantly for teams to work together to produce any of the variety of content that's out there. And besides just written documents, we have things like we have a narrator function. We have 6 really cool narrator voices, AI voices. So you can take, for example, a blog post, right? You drop the blog post in, you're going to get out a really good narration of it. You take it as an MP4, you put it on your website, your client's website, and all of a sudden you got 2 delivery channels for the same content, or image generation, which is getting better, all the time. And so it's producing all of that type of content. And in June, I think we're going to be adding. It's under construction right now, adding short videos. You'll be able to do short videos on it, and it's meant to be, the one-stop shop for PR people to go in content production, and because it's built for PR, right? I mean, we have as deep a domain expertise as you're going to have in this, and it is built for a whole bunch of reasons, a whole bunch of things on it. It's built specifically for PR. So I always tell people, take our platform and do anything, right? And then compare it to chat, right? And on this or cloud or whatever. And we're not just better most of the time. You do it 1,000 times, we're better 1,000 times because we're built for the industry, right? And these others are not. That doesn't mean the other ones don't have a role here on it, and people are certainly going to continue to use it. But industry specificity, it's one of the things I would look for in looking for AI tools is this built for public relations? Is it built for marketing?
And it's interesting because that leads into, I was going to ask, how does Précis Public Relations address the specific needs of public relations professionals? You've sort of touched on that, but can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, so it all happens at various levels during the development process. So as you're going through it, so if you go to one of our functions, you go to a op-ed. I remember if it's op-eds earlier, right? What happens that you can't see behind it. So one of the things that we did is we went and we scraped no copyright violations before people jumped it. We scraped about 5,000 of the best op-ed writers out there. We then ran it through some software we built called the Dehumanizer that took out proper names because we don't care about what they're writing about. We care about how they structure these things. And then that was used to train that tool, to teach it how do you write a world-class op-ed on this. And we've done the same thing with press releases and all the stuff that's there. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into making something industry specific on this, and it comes back to the good software development, but also in this case, having PR people be involved we've had PR folks, not technology, not engineers, involved in this from day one, right? So it works really well. I mean, I'm I'm thrilled that we are where we are on this. Right?
Well, let me jump into some of the audience questions, if that's okay with
Sure.
you.
Yeah, sure, of course.
I wanted to really quick touch on something that struck me. Someone said to me, and no shade on Mucktrack or Cision or anybody,
Yeah, they have their role. We use them at Xenophon.
if their content creation is bolted on, it's not what they do. So,
Yeah.
um,
It's not only is it not what they do, they're bolting on something that's an AI function that's AI native, and AI, it means the code is written for AI, and you're kind of grafting it on to a different style and frequently an aging code base, and it's one of the reasons that you don't have like when you go to any of these big companies on this, that you don't have the full suite of functionality that you get on a specialty platform like on Precis Public Relations, right? Is they really can't do it. I mean, really difficult without going in and fully updating the code base, and But when people are out looking for tools, I would strongly suggest listen. I suggest you go to Precis Public Relations, right? But I realize that not everybody in the planet is going to do that. They should, uh, uh, but you want things that are built for PR. You're just going to have better results at what you're doing, and less frustration, because if you don't have good practices of the way you use AI, what I was referring to earlier, it's that whole loop, you get lost in it, and it gets very, very frustrating.
another question, do you have any metrics that share that demonstrate the impact Pieces AI can make on a campaign versus conventional approaches?
Yes, we have tons of metrics. One of the great things about software is that you can gather stuff. We also have a very active user base. When we did our beta test about 18 months ago, it was 5 months. We had beta testers in 28 countries, both Americas, Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia, Southeast Asia, New Zealand, Australia. I probably missed somewhere. So we get data in from all through the beta, and 70% of those people became, customers on it. And some of the statistics I was talking about the per task, time improvement, this or those statistics out there are certainly metrics. But I think the most important metric is, when you're using it, is if you integrate it across your workforce, is how easy and is it for people to work together, right? Work together on this. Like, we can create, have a campaign function where you can put context documents on in there, and then you can share among everybody. So everybody's using the same base set of working documents and facts on it. And your results are just that much better.
So another question, you talked about the global test and the global scope. I noticed some of our Canadian colleagues are on the line.
Oh, good. Yeah, we've got customers in Toronto. Yeah, one of our biggest beta testers was Media Profile in Toronto.
Do you how does AI work in terms of segmentation when you're saying, okay, I need this message for my Anglo audience, and I need this message modified or segmented for my French Quebec audience, because there's different culture, language, everything. So is that a good application for?
Yeah, no, it's a great application. It's a great question. This was an important question for us, because we've got lots of users around the world. And in fact, we just added our first in Israel, in Tel Aviv. And so the platform, a lot of AI works in languages. You can use Precis in 27 different languages. It's been tested in all those languages out there. But specifically for the question, the way you do that is to create audience personas, right? On who you're trying to do. And there's a function on Precis to do this. You go in and create an audience persona. So you create one, for example, for English speaking, for Ontario, for example, which is where Toronto is. I grew up on the U.S.-Canadian border, so I know Canada quite well in Buffalo. And then you look at French-speaking, so you do your audience, personas, two of them, and then when you're generating things for it, you use that audience persona as an element of the material that the AI is using.
So again, feel free to share questions. I have a couple more that have come in. You at the end of the question about the specific needs of public relations professionals, you said PR and marketing. So can you talk about category specific? I mean, Precis.
Sure. It's on the Precis platform now. You've got marketing functions on it. We will be, and it's quite useful. So when I said earlier, we build industry specific platforms, and so one of the ones we're working on now is a state marketing platform. Although the Precis public relations platform does have some very good marketing. I mean, things to go in and to create, multiple landing pages and email campaigns and all of this is on there.
So the all right, I have two questions, and I'm going to save the first one for last. You talked about context documents.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that caused me to prick up my ears when we first had this conversation is, as I recall, you can put survey data in there to the AI.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Your customer data.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
It does. Yeah, sure. It does great with numbers. I will tell you, Tony, that we did a test of it against one of your surveys probably 6 months ago on developing the questions for it. And you'd be glad to know that you were better. It was good, but you were better. And this, which is, I mean, I like Researchscape's survey stuff because we certainly use it. But overall on this, what was the question again? I'm sorry, I got talking myself.
So context documents.
Oh yeah.
Because survey data sets are often massive.
Yeah, but you can certainly put it in. One of the things that I personally have been doing with it is there's been a lot of polls and stuff that have come out since November of 2022. People have probably seen the PR Week Cision one. Reagan Communications in conjunction with the conference board have done it. There's a whole bevy of this stuff, and things are changing rapidly on it. But to analyze all that and keep up on it, because you can get a stack of reports like this on it, you put it into the AI, you ask it to do comparison of certain elements for it to look for commonality between it. It does a very good. In general, does a very good job of summarizing and comparing things.
All right. So my last question that's come in is, we talked about Precis AI, we've talked about Precis public relations. Do you want to talk about what's next? Where do you go?
Sure. I mean, we got something that's actually, as far as Precis public relations is, was just playing around with it all weekend. We've got an associated app that's going to be launched. It's going to go into beta in about 10 days. That's out there, and this is. Listen, when you talk about chat, so Chat GPT is the interface, right? That interfaces you with OpenAI's large language model, right? And so one of the functions that we have on the Precis Public Relations platform is we have one called Xenobot, right? Which is a built for PR specific one, but it operates, similar to what you're used to with, similar to what you're used to with chat. And so we're releasing this. It is Xenobot, and again, it's customized for PR. So that's coming up. As a matter of fact, I had a little disagreement with my head of technology that leads the software team. I told him when I got on this thing, I was going to tell everybody on this, if you're interested in being a beta tester for the app, I mean, to let us know. So we've got 100 slots for beta testers, and I just checked before I came in here, and there's 412 people signed up for it now. Obviously, we're kind of oversubscribed to us, but anybody that's on this call that's interested in it, just shoot us an email. You can send it to beta@precisai.com, and I'll move you to the front of the line. And the reason I got into a disagreement with my head of technology is like, well, that's not fair and stuff like. It finally came down to like, Bo, I'm the boss. We're gonna do this. But yeah, but just send an email to beta@precisai.com if you're interested, and it doesn't cost anything, obviously. I think you'll be, I mean, I played with it all weekend. It's really good.
So I've asked Jeffrey to post the link to the demo.
Yeah, if people are interested in demos, we have a sales team. We can share all of the all of this. The demos, the demos last 30 minutes on it. We'd be happy to show it to you. Yeah, it's once people start using it, they really like it. And
All right, so I've kept you
I'm
talking.
biased, but
I've kept you talking for 40 minutes. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything you want to share with people? You invited them to demo, invited them to the beta.
I
The
guess
link is now in the chat.
I guess the biggest things is some of the things that I was talking about kind of the nuts and bolts of it is the use of context documents on that. And maybe I didn't stress it enough, but be organized in your use of AI, or you can get, I keep referring to this, universe of all these, documents floating around your head, but be organized in your generations, right? And, on platform, editing is important, but also have the ability to save outputs, to create folders. So you can put things in folders. So it's not just a mess of documents out there, but being organized really ups your, use of AI. And then the other thing from a practical point of view, like, listen, at Precis, you don't have to be a prompt engineer because we built all of that into it. But if you're using a platform that's not Precis, take some time to learn how to write prompts. I mean, prompts are instructions to the AI. Most people, when they go in, just write out something, right? And there's things that you can do to improve your output. Give people one trick here. If you're writing a press release with chat or anything else, the first thing your prompt should say is assume the persona of an expert PR professional, and it'll take the AI and move the AI into that. So.
Well, the comment that popped up in the question and answer was, thank you, appreciate the knowledge you've shared. So
yeah, great, thank you. Good.
With that said, I think we've run for 40 minutes, which is good.
Great.
And people can sign up for the beta, they can sign up for a demo, or they can reach out to you for further.
Yeah, sure. I'm at David at Precis AI. So
Perfect.
yeah, I'm happy to chat with anybody. And
I don't know what just happened. Yeah.